Yeah, hello, welcome to this video. Yeah, this will be the first video about the Tata Steel Chess Tournament 2013. Yeah, this year the Tata Steel Tournament is probably the second most important of the year. It is the most prestigious, I think, reoccurring event that we have each year. But this year we've got the candidates tournament in London in about 2 or 3 months. And of course this would be the most important, but otherwise Tata Steel is probably the event that the top guys want to win most. Yeah, it's a very strong field. It's not as strong as in previous years, I would say. Sometimes, some years before it was even a bit stronger, but still it's a very, very strong field. The first round has been played today in all 3 groups, and I went through all games quickly of the three groups and decided to do a quick recap of all games of the top group. So I don't get into those games very deeply, but sort of do a round report so that you know what was going on. Okay, let's start here with the first game. We had some heavyweight pairings in the first round. We have Carlsen against Caruana here, and let's see what happened. Carlsen playing c4 and Caruana going g6. c4 is one of those moves that can be classified as an anti-Grunfeld move, and we see immediately with e4 that Carlsen is preventing all Grunfelds. Yeah, and here Caruana takes the chance to steer the game into somewhat irregular is maybe too strong a word, but rarely played channels. He plays e5 instantly, playing against white going d4. White could play d4 even here to open up the position, but it's not so dangerous for black. Instead, Carlsen decides to go for a closed setup, bishop g7, and now g3. This is the typical Botvinnik center. There are quite a lot of setups called Botvinnik, but this is the typical c4 e4 pawn tandem that maybe the godfather of modern Russian chess has invented to control d5. Okay, d6, bishop, knight e2 first, and now Caruana plays c5, and this is really a bit of a spoiled sport move. It prevents d4 forever and sets up a completely symmetrical center, and here it is difficult to make anything out of this position. Really, it's a very slow maneuvering game. We see what happens. It's more or less symmetrical, and we see that Carlsen gets a bit of play on the queen side with b4, but it's not much really. h3 and some exchanges, and black has this idea, getting the knight to d4, and it's very difficult for white to avoid an exchange of this knight. So white will probably take this knight at some point because it's simply too strong. Let's just continue a couple of moves. And f5. Yeah, black strikes first here. This is the only pawn break left in the position. f5 or f4. The thing about those pawn breaks is that whoever is playing it is allowing the other side some activity with the bishop. If black plays f5, you see that now, that Carlsen takes a couple of moves later, and now his bishop is opened, but f5 opens lines for the rooks, and therefore black has got some activity. So the g file is a possible idea, or e4. If all circumstances work for black, you could even break with this move. Yeah, okay, d5 is a good square, and black probably intends to get some activity going on the king side. I think the position is very equal. Yeah, this is an active move. Black advances in the center, but white can answer with f4 and sort of keep the position closed. Now it's interesting to see what black is playing. He takes on f3, which is the safe move. There was also the possibility to go e3, which looks very tempting at first sight. Let's say queen here, or g2, I don't know. But this looks very good with this pawn. But the question is if this pawn is really such a great achievement. If white goes, let's say, queen to f3, rook to e2, it is safely blockaded, and maybe white can even go g4 after careful preparation. So this is maybe risky, and therefore he just took here. Yeah, and in this position white enjoys a slight edge because of this pawn, but we've got opposite colored bishops, and it's very difficult to make any decent progress. Yeah, here after all these exchanges it is completely equal, and here the game was redrawn. Yeah, not the most exciting game. This kind of setup here is is rarely producing really exciting chess. c4, e4 is not that dull, I mean, but if black gets to play this complete symmetry, it really gets very closed. If black would play knight c6 or something, then this is a much more interesting battle. Okay, so not very exciting. Let's check Anand against Nakamura, another heavyweight match. And we've got a French defense. Nakamura plays all kinds of openings, so it certainly wasn't easy for Vichy to do any preparation. Got a French, as mentioned, and the classical variation. Bishop b4 is sort of out of fashion nowadays, the winner, mostly because of
check
the queen g4 line, which is notoriously complicated, but there are very few players who want to go into this, while knight f6 enjoys a very good reputation nowadays. It's very difficult for white to find anything. He played e5 here, Arnold, which is maybe the more testing move according to theory nowadays, but this of course can easily change. Bishop g5. Black has more than one good alternative. D takes e4 is very solid, and bishop b4 is the sharp McCutcheon variation, which also seems fine for black. So the classical French is a good opening. e5, I mean, it never was a bad opening, but it is an excellent shape nowadays. Okay, f4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e3. This is the main line of this 4 e5, the Steinitz line. And here black has a multitude of options. The move that sort of brought all this into fashion is bishop e7 here, which Nakamura didn't play. He played a very sharp line. He took and played queen b6. This is also an interesting way to play for black. It is risky though, we will see. White is sacrificing the pawn, and black grabs it. Yeah, black's counterplay is amongst others based on this pin idea. Bishop to b5. And now a6. Yeah, bishop b4 is another idea. But this is interesting. It immediately returns the pawn in this fashion. But black has somehow managed to get rid of the light squared bishop, which is always a dangerous attacking piece in French structures. At the cost of a pawn, but black has two bishops, and if he's able to neutralize white's activity, he will have a good position.
Check.
Now gives a check and returns. This was designed to put the bishop on a worse position compared to d4. On d4 it protected the knight, for example, and also blocked the d-pawn. On f2 it is somewhat worse. Bishop to b6, queen c8. Yeah, all this looks somewhat shaky, but this on the other hand is a relatively forced line, which Nakamura certainly prepared. As mentioned, he has played this before in tournament chess and in rapid chess, so it is actually a line where you would think that Anand has something prepared. Of course, it's not easy to guess the exact opening that Nakamura is playing, but the French is something that he did play, so it's not like he suddenly played the Latvian Gambit or something. And it's if you look at this, it doesn't really seem like white has anything prepared, and you can even question if black isn't even more comfortable already. Queen c6. Black has two bishops, and what does white have? Of course, he's quite well centralized with the queen on d4, but other than that, it's pretty much nothing. He's very stable with those pieces. Well, it's not that stable, but for the moment it is okay, and this bishop isn't doing so much at the moment. Yeah, and I think we have a repetition and a draw now. Yeah, this is quite a short game and not very interesting. The only interesting fact is that Arnold again didn't have anything active, interesting prepared against this opening. Or let's say if you don't prepare it, maybe you can come up with something over the board, but he didn't. Yeah, the world champion is in a long crisis already for a couple of months, even years, like 1.5 years or so. And this is another pretty unspectacular game where you can only question if maybe Nakamura could have gone for more. But he's not the kind of player that doesn't take his chances. Probably there is nothing. Okay, next game, Aronian against Van Veli. Interestingly enough, we have a King's Indian, which is really surprising from Luke. He played the King's Indian years ago, but I thought he had abandoned it. Okay, and Aronian goes for the h3 line. This has more than one name. It's often called the Makagonov line, and sometimes also it is associated with Bagirov, who played it lots of times. Okay, e5, d5, knight h5. h3 is has got more than one idea. The main idea is to play g4 at some point to restrict the f5 break. This early knight h5 though of course prevents this move. I mean, if I go here, black happily plonks his knight into f4 and has a nice position. So g4 is nonsense here. Aronian played g3, which is a solid response, controlling this square, and he tries to actually evict this knight with slightly elaborate maneuver here. Knight h2, bishop e2, and now attacking this knight and basically sending it back. So black has spent those moves in order to get white to play some strange moves on the king side. h4, yeah, this really intense h5. The whole white setup is designed to delay castling and sort of prophylactically gain space on the king side to restrict black's play. Yeah, e4 was hanging, so he covered it. Yeah, and now we come to a funny position. The question is, yeah, what about the pawn on b2? Isn't queen c2 a normal move? Yeah, it is, but take a look at this, and it's quite funny. Black gets the queen back in this way and wins a pawn. So it's not so easy to actually cover this pawn. You can play some passive move like rook b1, but it's a question if this is really so great. It's not terrible, but it's rather passive. Aronian comes up with another idea. He simply ignores the pawn and then really grabs it. He's quite well known for grabbing lots of material if it's not immediately refutable. It's not a bad policy, but okay, so white now took here and played knight a4. So all this was based on a concrete calculation. In general, you really need to be cautious with giving up your dark squared bishop in the King's Indian, as usually with pawns on white squares in the center, the dark squared bishop is very important to cover up those squares, and without the bishop you can very often get into trouble. Here it is not so terrible, but you need to be cautious with this. Yeah, and now black even gets nice central position for the queen. The only thing which is a problem is that this queen doesn't have so many moves. Let's say if white would go here, for example, the queen wouldn't have any move, but something like this maybe could black play. Now knight b6. Yeah, this leads to interesting complications. I wonder how black saved the queen now. You go here, then rook d1. Yeah, this looks rather good for white. Maybe knight b6, rook to a6. Taking the knight. So after rook d1, rook b6 takes, I don't know how, this way. We have a weird position where black has a rook and a minor piece for the queen. Doesn't look like it is enough, but it's not entirely clear. Yeah, I didn't do a big analysis before I started the video, only a quick overview over the games. Yeah, maybe queen c2 was an interesting alternative here. What he played didn't really lead to much. Knight b6, rook a6, and rook b1. Yeah, black is still this pawn up, but it's not important really. It's about those rather strangely positioned pieces. I mean, this knight on b6 restricts black's rook. This is the compensation that white has. This rook doesn't have any squares, and it's not so easy for black to get out of this without returning material. Yeah, now white tries to activate this knight on h2, which was really a bad piece. Yeah, white took on c6 now. It's probably a case where you don't want to really play this move because it potentially frees the rook here, but maybe you don't have anything else. You could think about going d6. Not sure if this is good. This kind of pawn advances also can lead into trouble. Bishop to f8 attacks it again. Can here. Yeah, maybe this was an alternative. It's interesting. It's much sharper than taking, but it's also more risky. What he played, just taking, is certainly a solid option. I mean, you get c6 and probably even c5. Yeah, maybe this is better. Advancing the d-pawn was maybe too much. Rook b8 takes here. And knight d7. Yeah, it looks like a somewhat annoying pin,
Check.
but rook c8 gets rid of this. And here in this position, white should be very, very slightly better because of the piece activity, but it's probably not enough to get anything. Check. Yeah, now black has this weakness to attack, at least. And the rook gets active.
Check.
Yeah, after a couple more moves,
Check.
this ended in a draw. Wow, this looks really unnatural for black with the bishop on h8, but it's probably not that white can do so much. He also needs to watch the a pawn.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and I guess
Check.
we have some sort of repetition coming. Oops, a3. Yeah, and the bishop is simply too bad.
Check. Check.
It will get exchanged. And now we trade down to this endgame, where there's simply nothing. Yeah, and they agree to draw here. Yeah, black can just stay. He doesn't need to do anything. Just play sort of nothing moves and get the draw. Okay, let's have a look at this. Ivan Sokolov against Wang Hao. Yeah, Sokolov plays the classical variation, the Rubinstein, against the Nimzo, and he has written an excellent book on this, the Strategic Nimzo Indian, it is called. And we get the same line that Wang Hao played against Ivanchuk in the Olympiad in the last round, where he lost the crucial game against the Ukrainian. And in this game, Ivanchuk also played a3, which Sokolov actually recommended in his book, and we have this again, so it's a theoretical duel really. And Wang Hao drops back to d6. If I remember correctly, in the Ivanchuk game, he took on c3.
Check.
And this is now his improvement. Now white plays e4, and this is the point of the early a3. If you play a3 with castles and bishop b7 already played, then you cannot go e4. It is sufficiently controlled there in the square. Now you manage to get this pawn advance, and we have this continuation. Yeah, this is a bit looking like a Rubinstein French, actually. Rubinstein has many lines named after him. It's like the d takes e4 variation in the French, which is of course quite solid for black, but it's not too exciting often. But black has a healthy development. Cannot really speak of big troubles here for black. Yeah, white now took the chance to capture on d6, at least getting the bishop pair. And after the recapture, he played bishop f4. Yeah, and here black decided to immediately trade down the game with e5, which is the most direct solution to equalize. Takes and takes on f3. This was the idea. Queen takes and knight e5. And now this double attack leads to a further simplification, where black gets one of those two bishops. And d5. He immediately gets rid of the weakness. And yeah, this is a very very solid and sound way to go for black. It's not terribly exciting, but it gives you complete equality. Yeah, now we basically trade down, and it's nothing much going on. The knight on d5 controls c7 nicely. Black's king goes towards the center, and there is simply nothing to play for. I think they play a couple of moves, but there's really not much going on. White has a slight advantage nominally because of the bishop, which is somewhat the better. Oops, wanted to do that. Somewhat the better piece, and it maybe can attack h6 and g5, but it's simply not enough to get anything, anything tangible going. Yeah, white even gets a passed pawn here on g5, but black's got a blockade. Yeah, it still looks somewhat better for white. Maybe there's some improvement around here. If anything, there's something for white. I mean, black can only sit and wait and try to draw this. Okay, took. Oops, sorry, this was too quick. Rook a6. Yeah, a7 is a problem. Like rook takes a5, bishop e3, and then take on a7. This is probably why black is immediately trying to activate the knight, but he goes into pin. Yeah, this looks good for white. But what if white would first take? I don't know, this looks tricky. I'm pretty sure that around here maybe Sokolov missed something. He had some time on the clock still. They both have been playing relatively quickly. It's hard to tell. I would need much more time to figure this out, but this looks like white is better with this bishop against the knight. Let's see how it ended. Yeah, okay, this cannot be the best way to play. Rook h6 and then all the way back. Okay, it's probably good enough to draw the game, but it looks like a loss of time. Yeah, now black probably gets this pawn. Yeah, and drawn. How could it continue? Let's say rook takes. Yeah, white would probably take here, here. Yeah, and we have nothing on the board. It's a draw, even if one of the pawns would get lost. Yeah, I think somewhere around here. I mean, I'm not sure. I would need to analyze it more deeply. Maybe Sokolov had something. It looks very likely. Okay, what else did we have? We have, yeah, this is a strange one. Leko against Lamy. You probably know Leko Lamy, maybe not. He's a very good Dutch player, and he has played already in Wijk in previous years. Okay, we have Najdorf, and Leko plays g3, which is quite an interesting way actually to play against the Najdorf. If you don't want to go for a big main line, then g3 has its points. It's more of a positional way to play, but very often black players don't really know what to do and have problems. Okay, e6, this transposes into a kind of Scheveningen setup. Knight c6. Yeah, this looks fairly normal, but I'm no expert. I must admit that. Queen e2. Yeah, what is a bit annoying for black in this position is that the typical pawn move b5 wasn't possible, and now with a5, white puts a bind here on the queen side. So black doesn't have any easy counterplay there. Knight d7, rook d1, and now something really strange happened, and I didn't really understand what was going on, I must admit. Now rook e8, okay, but somewhere here. Now exactly this move, bishop to f6. This I really had problems to understand. I mean, if you look at clock times, Leko had spent some time, like 30 minutes, and Lamy also. But now he took like 30 minutes and then played bishop to f6, sacrificing a pawn. And if you look at this in the game, it was really like no compensation at all. At least it looked like this to me. And the question is it really so bad already that you need to play bishop f6? I don't know. It's really a pawn. I mean, it's I don't know. Is black so bad here? I mean, like rook c8 or h6 or some sort of waiting moves. Not like h6 is helping much, but I mean, look at the game. It really looks like a pawn for pretty much nothing. Maybe he also miscalculated. This is possible, of course, but this is just a pawn. And white also has got pressure on the d file. He's got this idea, and black simply has got nothing. But knight f6, and now Leko played knight c3, which is of course quite a logical move to get the knight back into some play from the edge of the board. Here, however, I think what about f4? This was also a possibility. Just trying to kick the queen, something like this. Yeah, this also looks terrible for black. It's got offside queen, and there's no attack whatsoever. Something like this. Can just take, and then maybe put this in a pin even. Yeah, it looks terrible. Maybe f4 was the way to punish black directly. After knight c3, yeah, black is also clearly worse, but he prevented f4 now. Or let's say, maybe he's not preventing it per se, but it makes it more difficult for white to go for this. Queen d4. And we got queen exchange. Yeah, white is still better, but somehow you have the feeling that maybe white had more along the way. Maybe this f4 was really better. Difficult. Okay, and now black has got a little bit of counterplay against the pawn on f4 and knight h4. Yeah, still white is better, much better, but yeah, I mean, I think there was something better. If you need to play such a passive move to protect your pawn, something wrong probably happened already. Yeah, still a pawn. But now I think black has chances to get it back. So maybe queen d3 wasn't great. Yeah, white was in some time trouble here.
Check.
Yeah, he returned the pawn. But as compensation, white has got ideas to invade with the knight and has got active pieces. So it's still probably somewhat better for white. This is maybe why he returned the pawn. Yeah, of course, you need to get rid of the d6 knight. Cannot play against this piece.
Check.
Yeah, and this looks quite drawish now, to be honest. Yeah, and
check.
we had some more exchanges and
check.
And the draw
check.
Coming.
Check.
Yeah, okay, almost down to king versus king. Yeah, it's a bit mysterious for me why black decided to really go for this. I mean, grandmasters or strong players are notoriously averse to defending passive positions, and he probably didn't want to do that. But I believe if you really need to go here, then you must have played some terrible stuff before, and it didn't look so bad to me what black played. So maybe rook c8 or something was still better. And here it just looks like white is winning. Maybe as mentioned, this f4 idea is better. I don't know. So Leko certainly missed a big chance here to get a point for the start. Okay, I now went through 5 games which all ended in a draw, and I saved the two two other games for last, where actually had some result. Yeah, we've got Karyakin playing white against Chinese, former, you need to say former now, former world champion, women world champion Hu Yifan. And we had 1e4. Yeah, Hu Yifan is making her of course debut in a really top class, yeah, usually men tournament, and it will be very difficult for her. You can say this beforehand even. She's very strong, 2,600, and she is probably also stronger than 2,600, but it's still very difficult to play all those top guys. She probably doesn't have the preparation and everything to combat this. Okay, let's see what happens in the first game. Karyakin goes knight c3, and we have this classical Sicilian again. The same position as in Anand against Nakamura. But now, instead of the very normal move, knight c6, Hu Yifan played bishop e7, which probably could be a simple transposition if you look at this bishop e3, and now knight c6 would lead to the already mentioned line that is popular nowadays. But here she played b6, which is a move that I never saw here. But I'm not an expert, must say. Yeah, maybe it is interesting. It's difficult to tell. I didn't check if this has been played a lot, or this idea to play b6 in these structures is not new. There's, for example, just to put it on the board, knight c6, queen d2, castles. There's something like this, for example, where black protects c5 so that after capture he would be able to recapture with the pawn and have a very, very good position. And now, she's playing this move very early, also getting this idea into play. So bishop e2 and bishop a6. She immediately went for this. Probably this is a new idea, or at least a very rare idea. It has one drawback, and this is the time loss involved. We see what happens. Castles, she now took, and this is important. White captured with the knight. We see why it is important. Knight c6, and now the very thematic move c4. And I believe actually that after c4, black already is in quite serious trouble. Maybe black needed to address this this c4 idea here already and play something else. I'm not sure what, to be honest. The problem is that c4 opens up the position very quickly on the light squares, and you have weakened the light squares with this b6 c5 setup. We'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe black here needs to do something else. I don't know, maybe this kind of idea to strengthen d5. Just an idea. Let's see what happens in the game to show what I'm talking about. c4, she now took, and d5, and this is the problem. Look at this. Now white has a very strong queen on d5. He will get this back, probably with the queen, and then there are all kinds of ideas to use the white squares in the center, and e6 is an idea, and all those pieces are, yeah, they don't have secure posts. Yeah, and now white simply threatens to strengthen the position further. Rook d1, knight c3, this kind of normal moves, or even e6 at some point. Yeah, she tried the radical b5, the idea being if white would take, then knight c2 is a fork. But of course white can simply centralize the queen, this way controlling the key squares of black's knight and improve his position. Yeah, black decided to get rid of the centralized queen, but in the process gave away b5.
Check.
She got it back with rook b8, b2, but now we see what I mentioned before. The knight is on d5 and black's king is on d8, so simply a terrible position. Rook d1, and white piles up on the king, and it's very difficult. Now the knight comes to c4 or e4 for that matter, even better.
Check.
Yeah, it's simply a huge attack, and black has I think almost no way to avoid material losses. She tried I think the best possible with rook g8, attacking the sensitive g2 square, but white could go like this, and now white simply threatens knight to f6 or taking, and black will lose material, as there's also knight c3. We'll see what happens. She took now,
check,
and now this knight before check wins the rook. It's no blunder, really. It looks maybe like one, but black really doesn't have a move. If black would, for instance, go here, knight c5, and now we've got knight f6 as a threat, and rook takes c6. There is no defense, so it's simply the bad position of the king and those unstable knights.
Check.
Okay, at the end,
check, check.
Yeah, black has got something here. At the end, there's the g2 the g2 threat, and this actually wins back some material.
Check, check, check.
Yeah, white has an extra piece. Needs some slight accuracy. Of course, the h pawn. You shouldn't give away that one.
Check.
But Kayakin is an excellent technical
check.
player, and there wasn't really going on much.
Check.
Yeah, he simply attacks the weaknesses,
check.
And they cannot be
check.
defended. Yeah, now black resigned. Yeah, this was kind of a strange game, actually. If you look at this, you've got this b6, which is a new or maybe rare opening idea. Obviously something you need to prepare before the game, Karjakin plays this line, knight c3, e5. It's no surprise. And if you look at this, I mean, after 11 moves, the game is basically over. This is a position that probably a top grandmaster considers to be close to winning. How should black defend his center? It's very difficult. Just to illustrate, if black, let's say, would castle, yeah? Okay, I need to actually go back. I want to show really how bad this is. It's probably not looking so terrible at first sight, but in the game she took, and then you've got this d5. But let's say black would castle, just to put it on the board. Then white would take and go here. And how do you protect this pawn? Even b6 is a terrible move. You cannot go knight b6 now. This knight cannot go anywhere. The best line probably is to take, and then d5 is terribly weak. White also has got knight f5. All in all, you see the white squares are completely weak, and this is all due to the bishop a6 idea, which isn't a terrible idea in itself in the French, but it very often is problematic if white would open the center quickly. And we have exactly this position here, where white manages to do that. So very strange preparation by black. I mean, you can, if you look at this, you can really discard the line after knight e2, unless you find some improvement. So it's a very strange piece of preparation, or she's just stumbled into this, don't know. Both doesn't sound too great after 10 moves. Okay, so and we've got one game left, and this is the Indian Grandmaster Hari Krishna. He's I think number 2 of India after Vichy, against Anish Giri, the Dutch talent, and yeah, yet another French. I only had a look at the end game here, but not the beginning. Okay, we got a Rubinstein French. Quite surprisingly.
Check.
I didn't know that Giri was playing this. And g3. Yeah, this is a very positional line, of course, intending to go to g2 and use the bishop on the long diagonal. Yeah, white has went with rook to d1 to get this typical opposition rook against queen, and to make it more difficult for black to play c5. Yeah, this is quite a typical position for this opening for black. It's very solid, and he decided to simplify even more with taking on e5. The problem was, of course, that this knight is potentially going to c6, which really would freeze up black's position. Cannot go rook d8. You cannot allow a knight to c6. Therefore, he just chopped it off. And yeah, in this position, it's hard to imagine that white should have a serious plus. Black is super solid here, and we got some further exchange. Okay, and now there's slightly weakened pawn, but probably yeah, I'm not sure. Black has got the d file. Not sure how bad this is.
Check.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I didn't look beforehand, as mentioned. Quite a cool tactic coming. Yeah, white cannot protect this bishop really. There's stuff like this. Oops. And if you would use the king, you have rook d4. And black is winning even. It's really super annoying pin. So yeah, you get to get the piece back with rook d1, and we got into rook endgame with equal material, but where white has maybe slightly more active position, with rook d7 and the king being a bit more active. Of course, this is a weakness, but it's not easy to use, to take use of. Yeah, black needs to be, I think, precise. This rook is quite strong. Yeah, and he gave away the pawn. If black would cover it, I think white would probably simply approach with his king, and the rook isn't really in a great shape.
Check.
So he gave away this pawn. It wasn't the greatest pawn anyway. Yeah, now black tries to simplify. I mean, the only thing that he needs to accomplish here, probably not that easy, but if he would exchange off the whole queenside pawns, then it's obviously completely dead. I mean, 3 against 2 with this double pawn is nothing. So black wants to simplify. Okay, exactly, c6 and b5. This looks like the way to do it. And a4. Okay, yeah, this is probably a good response. It sort of makes sure that the rook is looking somewhat stupid on c5. Took. Yeah, and rook f5. Not sure if you needed to do that. What if black would play something like this? There's rook e5. This is the idea. Okay, yeah, this is a problem. Not sure if you want to allow that, giving white the pawn. I think something similar happens in the game. Rook f5.
Check.
Yeah, white now threatening rook f8 winning. So black drops back, and now white switches his attention to the a5 pawn, and maybe he's threatening to come along this way. Yeah, g6 is well. I'm a bit shocked that black really played g6 here, giving white a pass pawn. Was this really necessary, or is this some sort of Zugzwang? I mean, why not taking it's something like this and then giving checks here? Yeah, it's not great, this position obviously, but I would think that g6 helps white. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like helpful.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and now white forces this transformation. Black took here. He cannot not take here.
Check.
As white is far too quick with taking here and advancing the h-pawn.
Check.
Yeah, and now we've got the a-pawn and the f-pawn, and this is a rather dangerous combination. We will see this later. Yeah, and now this is a pretty interesting formation that you should pay attention to. If in this kind of situation we've got the a-pawn with the rook in front of it, the problem is that black, of course, cannot go here because of rook h8. This is the important trick,
check,
getting the rook. So the problem is that black really cannot move his king to the f-file. This of course is even
check,
simpler. So black needs to sort of stay on g7 and h7. He can in this situation push the c-pawn, but white just approaches with the king. And the problem is that white simply pushes the f-pawn and provokes black's king on some square that he really doesn't like. Let's say c3, and it's even a white wins. Attached to this, he resigned while playing this probably. Yeah, white just goes here, and the problem is the c-pawn doesn't really matter in this position. Black is in Zugzwang. If he goes something like here, white simply pushes the f-pawn up the board.
Check.
And now it's over. It's this winning the rook or taking.
Check.
And white promotes. So this is important motif. The combination of the a-pawn and f-pawn is very powerful because it helps white to promote the a-pawn. Really, if it wasn't for the f-pawn, it wouldn't be winning. So an interesting win here for Hare Krishna out of a very, very let's say like
check.
I don't know. I mean, this looks like not much. Yeah, just for instance, if you think about this position and let's say you would take away the h pawn. Yeah, white has an extra pawn, but let's imagine he wouldn't have the h2 pawn. Isn't this just the same position? And white won this. It's not exactly the same position, of course, but the h pawn has some importance on h2, but it's very, very little, and he managed to win this. I still am not sure about this g6 move, but hard to tell without any deep analysis. So okay, what did we have here? We had 7 games, 5 draws, and 2 decisive games. There have been some chances that maybe weren't realized for Sokolov against Wang Hao, and Leko against Lamy was certainly winning at some point, but he somehow didn't manage to do it. And the 2 wins, one was kind of an opening disaster for Hao Yifan. She played some weird line in the French and got really rolled over by Kayakin. And we had this game, Hare Krishna against Giri, where Hare Krishna showed a great endgame technique by winning this position. Probably Giri could have defended better. I don't think you should really lose this position, but obviously it wasn't so easy. At least I cannot offhand tell where his mistake was. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you like this kind of video where I look at all the games quickly. If there is some great highlight video highlight game that merits more in-depth investigation in the upcoming rounds, I'll also do the kind of one game, one video thing, but I felt this complete overview was also quite interesting. Yeah, I hope you liked it. I'll be back soon with round 2 probably of Tata Steel.